Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Draft Countdown Podcast. I'm your co-host, Brian Bosarge, joined as always by my co-host, Shane P. Hallam. Shane, we are 133 days, 22 hours, 59 minutes, and 41 seconds away from the 2023 NFL Draft.
There we are. We're entering bowl season. The All-Star game conversation's heating up. We got a lot of guys declaring for the draft. So, and we're going to have a little QB-centric episode today, which I think people will like.
Some hot button issues with one of those underclassmen that has declared for this class. We ask, as always, if you're watching us along in the chat tonight, drop you a question there in the comment section or on Twitter at Draft Countdown. Shoot us a question there. Or if you're a member of our Discord, go to the podcast section there and ask us a question. If you're not a member of our Discord, go to draftcountdown.com. There's a link to join in the top right corner of the search bar there, Shane. A little movement in the top 10 for the draft order. We'll go through this really quickly. Houston still in the driver's seat by a game and a half. Holding on to that number one pick. steady. The Seattle Seahawks, now the proud owners of the number 2 pick, thanks to the Denver Broncos. The Chicago Bears holding on at number 3. The Detroit Lions, the 6 and 7 Detroit Lions, hold the 4th pick thanks to the Rams. And the Philadelphia Eagles currently picking 5th for the New Orleans Saints. Arizona, they looks like they might be in prime position to move up now with Kyler Murray being out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL. The Indianapolis Colts picking 7th, the Las Vegas Raiders 8th, Carolina Panthers 9th, and the Atlanta Falcons picking 10th. What's hilarious here about the Panthers and Falcons both picking 9th and 10th here is they both could be in the playoffs this time next week.
It's fair, right? I mean, that's where we're at with some of these divisions and, with what's happening. So I think it's interesting because we're going to get this week the Broncos against the Cardinals. So whichever team wins that game, jostling around, Seattle could get bumped down out of that 2 spot if Denver wins at home against Colt McCoy and the Cardinals. And I think it's shaping up to make the top of the draft interesting because as we'll talk about tonight, I think we have 2 quarterbacks. We have 2 elite defensive players. Does someone want to move up? Are you willing to trade out of getting Jalen Carter and Will Anderson, maybe 2 of the best defensive prospects we've seen in a while? That I think just that narrative is going to be interesting.
If the draft order stays in its current incarnation, short of, let's say, Philadelphia selling the pick, you could see quarterback go 1, which I think I feel virtually assured that's happening.
Yeah.
But you may not see another quarterback go until 7 in Indianapolis if the draft order holds and there's no trades.
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, I think in that case, Philly moves that pick at 5,
do too.
Right?
Because I do too. Yeah.
And I think Seattle and Detroit were 2 teams that we pegged as quarterback needy teams, but Geno Smith has emerged. If he re-signs, he'll be a free agent. If he resigns, maybe Seattle doesn't need that. We've heard that Detroit thinks Jared Goff's their future. We'll see if that's legitimate or not.
He is playing more improved, I'll say that, than what we would have thought. So, yeah, just a thought. I mean, It could be that situation. But, yeah, so that's the top 10 draft order of the NFL draft as of this week, Shane. We have had a lot of movement in the 2023 NFL draft. Who's in, who's out. Transfer portal is buzzing. We've had some players coming back. Underclassmen declare. We'll start with the underclassmen first because those probably your more high impact guys. And I want you to add anybody I make because if anybody declared today, I didn't write them down in my little notes here. But probably the best player I think that maybe declared this week was Myles Murphy, the edge rusher from Clemson, along with Drew Sanders, edge rusher from Arkansas. Both of those guys you're seeing rapidly mocked in the first round in the mid to teens 20 area in a lot of mock drafts. Antonio Johnson, the safety from Texas A&M, who every game I watched play this year didn't play. So that's That's encouraging. I'll have to go back and find some on him, I guess. Tank Bigsby, I know we're curious where he may end up falling. Raheem Jarrett, I've been a fan of him. The wide receiver from Maryland has entered the draft, and to a lesser extent, maybe not known at this point, Nick Herbig, the linebacker from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see, like I said, Tank Bigsby. I like him. I don't know how athletic he is. I think that'll be a big question. We also had Jalen Hyatt, the receiver from Tennessee. He probably a first-round pick, I would think, at least top 50, and he made the jump today to the NFL draft. So
speed is his game.
Yeah, I mean, he got behind everyone and won the Blitnikoff. So I think that's one way to do it. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. I think that's I think you got everyone else that I have on my list here. So it's good.
Couple of guys that not in the portal that just straight up announced they were returning. I don't think we talked about it last week, but I wrote it down anyway. A couple of quarterbacks here. Tyler Van Dyke from Miami, who we both had high hopes on coming into the season, but for one reason or another, it wasn't good.
Rough year.
This year. Rough year. But he is returning to Miami next year, and Jordan Travis, who could become an intriguing prospect next year, has that athletic upside and improved this season as a passer. I thought in the couple of games that I watched. But he's returning to Florida State,
and he gets your boy Jaheim Bell going to Florida State. So more weapons for Jordan Travis. Yeah, I think he's probably maybe one of the more intriguing returns for guys that played well this year and could really move up the board outside of Michael Penix.
Yeah, and we mentioned the transfer portal was busy this week as well, and you mentioned Jaheim Bell going from South Carolina to Florida State. I think that's going to be a good landing spot for him, don't you?
Perfect. I think it's perfect. They know how to use their weapons. We saw this year. So,
South Carolina also lost their top running back from last year. Marshawn Lloyd's battled injuries in his career at South Carolina, but the talent is immense when he's on the field. I don't know where he's going to land. I have a couple of guesses. I think he was a big fan of Marcus Satterfield, their old offensive coordinator. I don't know why, but he was. But so Nebraska becomes a landing spot for him potentially, and I think Maryland also a landing spot that is where he's from. So a place to keep an eye out for Marshawn Lloyd. Grayson McCall, another quarterback prospect that we had talked about, maybe third to fifth round area in this year's draft, entered the portal, visiting Auburn this weekend. I think we both believe that's probably where he's going to end up for Hugh Freeze next year. Austin Reed, the Western Kentucky quarterback who transferred up from D2 West Florida, entered the portal and said, "Nah, I'm good. I'm going back to Western Kentucky." And he might actually play in the bowl game, Shane. So you'll get to see him next Wednesday in the New Orleans Bowl, potentially against South Alabama. And two corners that we were high on at times, both from North Carolina, Tony Grimes and Storm Duck, both entered the transfer portal.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. From North Carolina team that struggled on defense, Tony Grimes was beat up all year. Storm Duck had to take everything. I think both those players can help a team. And yeah, I'm excited Austin Reed's going back too. I think that's good for him. And Grayson McCall, and probably another name on my list of a guy that can move up if he goes to an SEC school, right? And does really well. Now it's going to be more of a pro style system. That's intriguing.
I will say that Hugh Freeze basically got Malik Willis drafted. So
right. I mean, I say like more of a pro style than Coastal Carolina. There's not a high bar.
It's still not a pro style,
right. But it's better than Coastal Carolina. Watching.
We're not talking split backfield here, West Coast offense or anything. No, but yeah. So that's interesting in the portal this week. We've been discussing the college football coaching carousel. We've settled on 3 new coaches, I believe, this week. Maybe I think Kent State hired Minnesota's offensive coordinator. I didn't write his name down.
But assistant head coach, their RB coach. Yeah.
Okay. So he's now the head coach at Kent State, replacing Sean Lewis, who left to go be Coach Prime's offensive coordinator at Colorado. But Troy Taylor, the Sacramento State head coach, takes over for David Shaw at Stanford. Ryan Walters, the defense coordinator for Illinois, who just worked wonders for that defense this year, took a dormant defense and made them the second best in the country this year. He's now takes over for Purdue, where Jeff Brom left to go to Louisville. North Texas replaced Seth Luttrell with the Washington State offensive coordinator Derek Hall, who was the head coach at Incarnate Word a year ago. And last, Navy has parted ways with longtime head coach Ken Niumatalolo. I just assume they're going to grab some assistant coach from one of these other service academies, and they'll keep running the triple because that's what they do.
They fired him in the locker room after the guy. I thought that was awful for a guy at 16 years in, just right after the game. So they must have been planning it either way.
Yeah.
You're not making that split decision. But, yeah, I'm probably most excited for Troy Taylor, the Sacramento State head coach going to Stanford. I think it's a good fit. I think he's been successful everywhere he's gone. It's going to be a tough spot, I think, with NIL and academics and all that. But, yeah, Stanford's had some good players. It's a good name still, so.
Yeah, so that's the coaching changes this week. There's another one we'll talk about that in a little bit. Senior Bowl this week, Shane. We got a handful more of these the invites here. The exact count is 17 this week. So we'll go through them quickly. A 4-pack of Alabama Crimson Tide players, bringing the total number of 7 to Alabama players here in Mobile this year. Kicker Will Reichert, like I told you, that was pretty much the easiest selection on our predictions list there. If Alabama or Auburn has a specialist that's of any note, they're going to play in the Senior Bowl. Tyler Steen, the former Vanderbilt offensive tackle, this year with Alabama, will be here. Safety / corner, we'll just call him a defensive back, DeMarco Hellams, who did not have such a good game there against Tennessee, did he?
No, that was one of the roughest games I've seen, but they didn't put him in good position.
But probably the best or prospect that we like the most of these 4 is tight end Cameron Latu.
Yeah, man. I really thought he was going to explode this year, and that offense just wasn't at Alabama. Just wasn't what it was meant to be. He was hurt, multiple injuries. I think he's going to impress at the Senior Bowl. I think we see Latu's stock rise, maybe even to around 3-4 range in Mobile.
I don't recall the last time a service academy player was drafted in the first round. I don't know if it happens this year, but if it does, Andre Carter could be that guy from Army, this long, lanky, just great finisher off the edge. A lot to like about Andre Carter.
Yeah, I think he has a shot to go. I think it was something like 1946. He'll be the highest drafted from Army since then. Was a running back, won the Heisman, went second overall. So Andre Carter, even if he's not a first-round pick, it's going to be much higher than an Army player's gone in 70, 80 years.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know the last service academy player. We might have to look this up at some point. Drafted in the first round was Clemson Tyler Davis, defensive lineman. Shane, you had him on your picks to go here. What do you like about him?
Yeah, just a solid athlete, and he's a player who is tough in terms of the 3 technique, can rush the passer a little bit. He's stout against the run, like not flashy. I don't think he's going to be a high draft pick, but someone you plug in and he doesn't hurt you. I think a nice backup in the
NFL. Florida, their other guard, we talked about Osiris Torrance. He's really good. Richard Garage is the other. He'll be coming. Miami had a pair this week. I don't want to say head scratchers, but maybe not 2 guys we expected. Corner Tyreek Stevenson and tight end Will Mallory.
I didn't expect either one. I mean, I think Tyreek Stevenson, he was a transfer from Georgia who I liked at Georgia and never really seemed to come through, but a good athlete. Will Mallory, almost similar. You know, Brevin Jordan held him off the playing time on the roster there, and then Will Mallory got hurt this year. Another very athletic player, so maybe they both have a chance to kind of bounce back in this game.
Another potential first-round edge rusher from Notre Dame, Isaiah Foskey. Yeah, this one I like.
Yeah, I mean, guys that have like multiple double-digit sack seasons, tackle for loss seasons like him from a big school, they get drafted in the first round. It doesn't matter what else happens here. He's impressive.
A pair of Buckeyes, Shane. I know you're excited about that. Zach Harrison, who came on this season, and DeJuan Jones, offensive tackle. And this guy's freaking huge, 6'8", 360.
I mean, DeJuan Jones, like the big dancing bear at offensive tackle, mental mistakes, he'll hold, he'll false start, but like you see the upside. That's what's intriguing with him. I can't wait to see him go against Zach Harrison in the pit because, you know, I think that's going to be fun because Harrison, great season, even if statistically it wasn't that great. He was in the backfield when he played, making tackles like, you know, we were talking about him last year. Like we like this guy. I think there's been a couple players like that who now a year later, hey, that looks pretty good.
Oklahoma's Braden Willis, fullback, H-back, tight end type here, right?
Yeah, he's kind of the fullback, you know, that old Austin Stogner kind of position. You know, at Oklahoma, even with the coaching change, I feel like you still have that H-back that's playing there. Braden Willis had done that for a while for them. And, you know, a good fullback maybe sneaks in the 7th round.
A pair of corners that I'm really high on also came in the last couple of days. Rezjon Wright from Oregon State. I feel like I talked about him a lot. And over the last 2 months, I've really been talking up Darius Rush from South Carolina as basically the guy who's had to suck it up because teams stopped throwing at Cam Smith. He got tested, and he has shown through with flying colors.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him. I think it's a big opportunity. And like you said, like Kobe Bryant last year, people took notice because of that.
Offensive tackle from Tennessee, Darnell Wright, was a kind of a late on our radar a little bit this year, but has emerged as a potential top 10 offensive tackle in this class.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty well established that he's got to be probably a day 2 pick, and I think that's right where it fits in an offensive tackle class that needs a little bit of juice.
And finally, last but not least, Shane, our other long snapper in this game, Rob Soderholm from the Virginia Military Institute.
Like I had him on my rankings pretty low. I have not watched him this year to move up. So now I got to find some VMI tape and get Soderholm on there. I guess I'll bump him up to 2 on my long snapper rankings.
Number 2 long snapper.
Yeah, lock it in. Especially because it's a week. It's a pretty weak group. A lot of guys going back to school and whatnot.
It's long snappers, man. Less we'll talk about that, the better off we'll be. All right, Shane. We teased talking about quarterbacks. We're going to.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So we talked about quarterbacks, and we're going to get to our cover boy here from the picture on the video here. But let's talk about the top here, and. We both agree the Houston Texans picking 1. They're going to draft a quarterback. And we are both of the mind that it's either going to be Alabama quarterback Bryce Young or Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud. Both are really good. There's both to like about things to like about both of their games. Stroud has the better size. I think Young has the better mental makeup. Is that fair?
No, I think it's fair to say. I think at least we know that with Bryce Young with some of the games this year. To me, I like Stroud better. I think the size is a big issue. I also think Stroud has a little more of that zip on the football and that some of those NFL outside back shoulder passes. Now he's playing with probably the top receiver in next year's class in Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe a top 100 pick in Emeka Egbuka. He's got a lot going for him on that offense. And so I think that's a question.
If you go back to his last year's tape, he was playing with Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson,
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
So
who could be a first round pick in this draft too? So like that's the question: is the weapons making Stroud better, or some of these NFL throws though I think are impressive. He's not a guy that runs. Ryan Day doesn't want his quarterback to run. We saw Justin Field not run. So Bryce Young's going to bring that athleticism, and I think Bryce Young's accuracy is just off the charts. And I think that's what you get with him, and why I think a lot of the national people are putting Bryce Young number 1 overall at this point. You feel like you get Heisman Trophy winner, athleticism, ball placement. You can work with that in almost any system. I think Stroud's a little more of that throwback to a 90s, early 2000s quarterback. Is that what teams want?
And we talked about that a little bit last week when some of the comps, I think it was Eric Edholm and Jordan Reed were comping, basically saying like Eli Manning or Jared Goff were a couple comps they threw out about CJ Stroud, and we both agreed that those were kind of fair. Both of those were number 1 overall picks as well. I have moved Bryce Young up to number 1 on mine because of everything you said right there. I think that if you are the Houston Texans and a team that is going to be poor of many resources, you're going to want a guy, I think, that's going to elevate everybody from the down up. Not that Stroud can't do that, but I think that might be the mindset that they look for with Bryce Young. And so I'm going to move him ahead of Stroud for the time being. Things could change, obviously, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I think I'm going to keep Stroud there. And honestly, I don't know what it would take.
The testing's not going to matter with these two because they're not going to test.
I mean, I guess the playoff game against Georgia, if Stroud really puts up
if he goes out there and dices up Georgia, then we have to start reevaluating life.
or the opposite way. If he goes out and lays an egg, then you're, what are we doing here? Right? So right. I think that might be a determining factor for this tiebreaker.
Yeah. So we're split on Young and Stroud for now, but I think it's a good debate to have, and I think it's going to be a debate that this is probably not the last time we're debating this on this very show over the next 4 months.
No, absolutely not. It's going to be fun.
All right, so let's get the giant gator in the room here. Let's talk about this. Anthony Richardson declared for the draft this week. To say opinions on him are mixed would be cutting that statement very short. There are people I've seen that will say he's QB1 in this class. I've seen it.
No way.
I have seen it. I'm not saying that I value the opinion of the people who have said it, but I'm saying I've seen it. I currently have Anthony Richardson as QB6 in this class. So I answer this question of, is Anthony Richardson worth a 1? No. And that's where I'm at.
He's 6 for me too. At this point, I think maybe I'm being a little facetious and he should be 5th on my board, but I'm going to be lower on him than consensus. It sounds like you are too going forward. I just can't recall a quarterback with this profile that, 1-year starter. I mean, literally last season, I think he started 1 game, maybe 2 games. So 13 games he started. He's played for Florida as a quarterback, essentially. And, has multiple games, 3 games under 10 completions, has a completion percentage under 54%. Like, I can't find, I was trying to find a guy, Christian Hackenberg, that's like the name that comes to mind, of a guy that struggled, but had the tools, the upside, and went in the top 100. I couldn't find a top 100 quarterback that even fits what Richardson is. Now, we're going to see the 2-point conversion play on loop we're going to see the size and the speed and the strength. I mean, his workouts, he's going to be a 10 RAS score guy, right? Like he's going to be. He will. And I think that is what sells you, right? You have a 6'4", 240 quarterback that looks like Cam Newton running the football. That can sell you. He's got an arm. He's got a live arm, but he can't hit anyone. Even in his best statistical game this year, throwing for 400 yards against Vanderbilt, I mean, he was under 60% completion. He was missing wide open receivers. Like, how do you draft that in the first round? I think it's going to be a mistake. I mean, in my mock this week, I had him going in the second round to the New York Giants. I think that's like best case scenario, right? Put him with Brian Dabble, who developed Josh Allen, and try to get something out of this. That's what it's going to take. Maybe we look foolish at the end of this, but I just can't see Anthony Richardson as a quarterback. I do think you take him day 2 because, and Dennis just put this out in the chat, like worst case, you put him at tight end and you have a guy that's a heck of a tight end. So I think there is a nice floor for Richardson in the NFL.
You mentioned his RAS score. You know who else had a 10 RAS score that I was incredibly high on, and I'm not getting fooled by this again? Tyree Jackson.
Well, yeah.
Who I think could develop into being a nice tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles. So there's that. But
that's fair. Little different schools there, but
correct. But throughout the years, I've been lower than consensus on Daniel Jones. I had him in the 70s. Goes in the top 10. I think I feel vindicated for that. I don't think Daniel Jones is a very good quarterback. Josh Allen, I also had in the 70s.
Right.
That one didn't work out.
No.
And then let's go back to last year, Malik Willis. And he ends up actually getting drafted, I think, in the 70s. So, that one, the NFL agreed that that's where he should be selected. I guess you're drafting Anthony Richardson in the first round. You're hoping he develops into Cam Newton, right? I mean, that's the dream, right? A guy with that kind of running ability and athleticism. But in reality, Malik, he's a bigger Malik Willis as a prospect to me. That's the accuracy issues with Willis were there too. Huge arm. He had no idea where he was throwing the football half the time. And I think that's the same thing with Anthony Richardson, where we're going to look at is just the accuracy is so poor that it's hard for me to overlook all of the other intangibles.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. He also is going to have, 15 pounds on Malik Willis and probably is as fast. Yeah. So I think athletically, you're getting a better player. I mean, I agree with you. At least Malik Willis started for 2 years. At least you felt like you had something to work with. I think the footwork and the, even the windup and just how he kind of points the football, I think is just way off. That I just can't recall. The other top 100 quarterback that I thought of, this guy started though 3 years, was Kevin O'Connell was the other one. Like that's the only other guy with this kind of statistical, hit. And like even Cam Newton, if you're saying, okay, that's the upside, that's what you want to get out of him. I mean, Cam Newton, a 66% passer in college. It's not like he was missing guys like this.
Kevin O'Connell was the San Diego State, right? And
current now head coach of the Minnesota Vikings.
The Vikings, yeah. so maybe Minnesota drafts him late in the first round.
And like to me, that's an ideal situation where you have Kirk Cousins. He's not going anywhere. Like Anthony Richardson cannot play as a rookie. He cannot. I think that would be super detrimental. You need somewhere he can sit. If the Giants sign Daniel Jones back, or the Seahawks bring back Geno Smith, like that's where I want Anthony Richardson to go. If he goes to a spot where like, wow, they really need a quarterback and they draft him, that's scary. I think that's a problem if he gets forced in too early.
So 1A, 1B right now, Young and Stroud, we're there. We both have Anthony Richardson 6. I think we have differing 5s. but and probably 4s for that matter. But so who's number 3? It's Will Levis by default, right?
Yeah, I don't know who else you can put there. I mean, if you really like Anthony Richardson or you want to ignore Hendon Hooker's torn ACL, I think is like the two options you have. Will Levis is number 3 by default. I'm not a fan. Your comparisons have not been kind to him. I think he was a much better player in 2021. And I think injuries, the offense, the weapons, I think a lot of things. He had, a lot of younger receivers who are very talented, but making mental mistakes. I go back to that film and I say, okay, I get the hype. Like, I get it. I wouldn't draft him in the first round, but I understand playing in a system that's going to super translate and seeing the year he had in 2021. Like, he's legitimate. But I think it's a chasm between the top 2 and him, in my opinion.
Who is your number 5?
Tyson Bagent, Shepherd.
I can't rank him yet. So I haven't watched him yet. So I can't qualify him. And I'm gonna be honest, I may just wait till the Senior Bowl at this point.
My fear is the Senior Bowl is what's gonna knock him down my board, but we'll see what happens.
DTR is my number 5.
Oh, Shrine Game, DTR.
Yes. I still like DTR, and I think he is more experienced and a better passer, and maybe not the same athlete, but he's not 50% the athlete that Anthony Richardson is. They're in the same league.
Who's your 4?
Levis. I've still got Hooker 3rd.
You got Hooker 3rd. Okay.
I can't.
Wow. All right.
Levis will end up 3rd just because by the time it's all said and done. But as of today, I still got Hooker 3rd.
How close is, say, DTR to Will Levis for you? Because I think that's a fair
Closer
question.
than it should be.
Okay. Yeah, I think it can be fair.
I guess with Levis, a question would be especially now with the news this week that Liam Cohen, who was his offensive coordinator last year, who went back to the Rams, has left the Rams and is going back to Kentucky to be the offensive coordinator again after was it Rich Scaramello? Is that his name? Did I pronounce that right? Scarangello? I don't know. Anyway, he was fired after 1 year, and one has to think that part of the reason he was fired was Will Levis kind of fell off a little bit this year. Injuries contributed some, but yeah.
I think the offensive game plans contributed a lot too, which is part of firing. Yeah, it's like, I think to argue for Will Levis, you got to make a lot of excuses for him, which is never good. An NFL team's still going to take him super high. I think it's going to be really tough. We talked about the draft order for the Colts to pass on him, for the Panthers to pass on him. Like, I think it's going to be really tough for Will Levis to fall out of the top 15 of this draft, just because teams need quarterbacks.
So 2-part question is left here is who else is there and what to do with Hendon Hooker. We'll do the second question first. So what do we do with Hendon Hooker? I mean, we have to base it off the ACL timeline that, at the least he's missing probably the first 6 weeks of the season.
You have to think so. I mean, I think ACL repair is getting much, much better very quickly. So I don't think Hendon Hooker's going to get drafted to play week 1, right? Like, that's out anymore, even if you would be ready, quote unquote. So yeah, maybe pup list, bring him in, see what happens.
Well, it would be NFI because he would not have been hurt in an NFL situation.
No, right, which makes sense. I think for me, like, I still like Hendon Hooker a lot, but he's going to be an older prospect. We know this, and he's still, like, where's that draft capital going to be? I mean, you hate to have that influence, like my rankings and where I put put people and whatever. But ultimately, I mean, Hendon Hooker is like, if he gets drafted on day 3, he's basically sunk as an NFL player, which I think can happen because of the age, because he's going to be over 25 years old and has a knee injury. So I think Hendon Hooker should go round 3. I think someone should take him, sit him, and see what you can do. So personally, to me, I think he's got to stay at 4 in my rankings, and I think it's going to be hard to overtake him unless Anthony Richardson somehow does a complete 180 in these next couple months. I think Hendon Hooker's got to stay there, even if he falls to early day 3.
That's fair. To answer this question, we heard what Dennis had in the comments. Houston cannot trot Davis Mills back out there again. They can't. that situation has to die.
I mean, they're going with the 2 quarterback set now, Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll. So Driscoll playing the Taysom Hill role, like it's dead. When they bench Davis Mills for Kyle Allen, it's all dead. They're drafting a quarterback at 1.
That's
like
done. So who else is there, Shane? I mean, you mentioned Tyson Badgett, but you're looking at what is the success rate for a D2 quarterback in the NFL?
Not great.
Not great. We're
good.
fighting uphill already. Even if his dad, did you read the Athletic piece?
I did. It was a great piece.
I'm gonna be honest. I hesitate to say anything negatively about the man because I don't want his dad ripping my arm off.
The arm wrestling champion of the world.
No. So I mean that leaves us with just looking at a handful of guys here. You've got Jaron Hall from BYU, who we believe who hasn't, per Jim Nagy, has a Senior Bowl invite.
Another going to be 25 or close to it by the draft.
Jake Hayner from Fresno State is another guy, and then you have your Bo Nix, Stetson Bennett guys who I have no faith at all in as NFL players. Others do, especially Nino. If you're listening, Nino, we know how you feel about Bo Nix. But one guy I want to talk about here who's on this list is Tanner McKee from Stanford. Because he's a name that you'll see in the occasional first round of a mock draft. You shouldn't, but you'll see it.
Pro Football Focus really likes Tanner McKee for some reason.
Tell me why. Explain to me why they like him so much, and then explain to me why they're wrong.
So, look, I think they like Tanner McKee because you have the offense of Stanford under David Shaw was a typical drop back, pass. I think it's an easy evaluate offense. And so when you have a guy that's big with a big arm, I think things look good, much better. So I could see maybe I'm evaluating kind of play to play, positive, negative. Things look better than they are. But you still have a guy who's 13 touchdowns, 8 picks, with 2 of his top 2 receivers going to the Senior Bowl. Like, those aren't bad players. He's not throwing to bad players. I think he was the thing that held the offense back more than anything. You have offensive linemen that might be transferring now, but are future NFL players. Like, the Stanford offense had talent. E.J. Smith played well, running back. I think Tanner McKee never lived up to the hype coming into the season. And honestly, he's touchdown to interception ratio has been bad the last 2 years. He's another guy who, has been around for a bit. I just don't. I don't know. I don't see what there is to like about him. I think you draft him day 3. I think he has the size, he has the arm, but he can't run. Like, he can't move in the pocket. This is, to me, a Carson Strong situation minus the injury.
That didn't end well. Although he's just signed today to the Arizona practice squad. Take that for what it's worth.
That's good.
Is there anybody else we haven't talked about that bears mentioning? because I haven't seen Sam Hartman declare for the draft, and I know he's a guy we've talked about before. So I don't know if he's going to be in this draft class or not.
I don't think so. If I've heard some transfer rumors even for him. So yeah, I don't think there's anyone else, right? I mean, I think the only other guys that have a shot, Clayton Tune is going to the Senior Bowl from Houston, very productive. The only other players would be, I think, if Max Duggan pulls a surprise from TCU and declares, I think there's going to be some rightful buzz for him. And then I think Spencer Rattler from South Carolina, just being former 5-star number 1 recruit, there'll be some buzz for him. But outside of that, I just don't see anyone that's going to get decent draft capital. I mean, Malik Cunningham declared. I don't think he gets drafted. So I think that's the end of this class.
And when we say buzz, we mean like day 3.
Right. Like get drafted.
Just get drafted.
Name recognition. Yeah. People will be excited.
Right.
People will be excited about him because they know the name. But
yeah, we're not getting excited over guys like Aiden O'Connell. Anybody like that.
No, after getting hurt this year, like I think similar to McKee, he just didn't live up to expectations. I do think you're selling Bo Nix a little bit short, but I still don't. I still think he's a day 3 quarterback.
Can't do it. I can't let 1 year at Oregon clear my eyes away of what I saw at Auburn. Can't do it. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, Shane.
Yeah, I have too. So quarterback's so hard to evaluate. It's tough. This class is tough.
It would be different if we were the only ones that were, not the best quarterback evaluators. The NFL is obviously quite bad at it as well.
Very fair.
All right, Shane, 12 bowl games starting Friday through Tuesday, and that's how we'll break up. Basically, the podcast will break up the week of what we'll call our bowl game weeks. So bowl game week 1 starts this week on Friday, Shane, and your extra game that was bequeathed to you, the Bahamas Bowl, Miami, Ohio, and UAB. There's going to be some players we're probably going to talk about that have either transferred or opted out, and we're just not aware of it. So
yeah, there's a lot of opt-outs.
So if you see a name on these primers over the next 3 weeks, let us know. Say, hey, this guy doesn't even play there anymore. We will cross him off the list.
There's plenty.
So Miami, Ohio, not a whole lot this year to get excited about. We had a couple of guys last year to get excited about, but not so much. Dwayne McBride, the running back from UAB, if still playing in this game, is the prize, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still questions of if he will declare or not. But, playing this game, I think you should either way anyway, and he's going to be the guy that determines, how good the game goes and if UAB wins it. So
I should note that this game is at 10:30 a.m. on Friday from Nassau. The Cure Bowl in Orlando. This is actually one of the better bowl games. I hate that it's being tucked away at 2 p.m. on a Friday. But on ESPN, Shane, you'll be watching Troy, the Sun Belt champions, playing the UTSA Roadrunners, the Conference USA champions. A lot of good players in this game to watch out for. You got Carlton Marshall, Jake Andrews from Troy, UTSA wide receiver Zachary Franklin, Joshua Cephas also there, and DeCorian Clark was injured in the CUSA championship game. Not sure what his status is for this game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I mean, Troy ended up winning the conference, and you have UTSA that high-flying offense that seems to be sticking together and sticking in with Frank Harris going back to school. So that's becomes really interesting for them. So yeah, I'm excited. I like Jake Andrews. I like that center from Troy. I feel like I'm alone in that at this point, but I'll ride it out.
Fenway Bowl on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. This, of course, has become quite contentious with Scott Satterfield leaving Louisville to coach Cincinnati. But this game will be played at Fenway Park in Boston. Ivan Pace Jr., really good linebacker for Cincinnati. in this game. Leonard Taylor, solid tight end, late day 3 tight end prospect. Their other tight end, Josh Wiley, will be at the Senior Bowl, but is opted out. Louisville, we've talked about Malik Cunningham earlier. He opted out. He will not play in this game. Keitrell Clark, their corner. I know you're a fan of him.
Yeah, I am a fan of him. I think if he plays, I think it can really help. I think it can really help him as well. We saw the receiver at Louisville, Tyler Hudson, declare for the NFL draft today. So
I guess we can cross him off.
Yeah, I assume so. I was looking at his statement to see, usually in the statement they'll be like, well, I've got to play in the bowl game. His doesn't say that. So
yeah,
I'm going to assume he will not play in this one either, ultimately.
Yaya Diaby, the edge rusher from Louisville, in the Senior Bowl. Not sure if he's playing in this game or not. I haven't
seen that yet.
Celebration Bowl in Atlanta between Jackson State, the SWAC champion, and the MEAC champion in North Carolina Central. We have no North Carolina Central prospects on our list. We have a lot of Jackson State prospects on this list, or maybe they're Colorado Buffaloes now. I don't really know. Could go either way. But I know one of them, Aubrey Miller, is in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I don't think he's playing.
No.
I think Dallas Daniels, the receiver, might be the only guy that's playing that might end up, I don't know, in a camp. So tough game for you there with that one.
Yeah. Florida, Oregon State, Las Vegas Bowl. The timing of this game was swapped. I don't know if you noticed this or not, Shane. You may have to adjust.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't have.
You may have to adjust your calendar here. 1:15 on Saturday now for the Las Vegas Bowl, and the reason was they need 24 hours to get the field ready at Allegiant Stadium. The Raiders were scheduled to play on Sunday night, but because they suck, they got flexed out, and their game got moved to the afternoon. So in order to accommodate the field switchover, they swapped, because since ESPN owns both games, they were able to swap the timing around with the New Mexico Bowl, which now goes on late, which we'll get to in just a second.
Yeah, it's another one. Jack Miller, Ohio State transfer, starting a quarterback for the Gators. So he was the backup, I think, starting the year and got hurt. So it's not too far gone. But a lot of the Florida players are not playing that are going into the draft. Oregon State, I haven't heard too much, but Joshua Gray, their offensive tackle, is going back to school, who I really like. Chance Nolan's going to play their quarterback. So might be. I think Jack State's favored because of all the Florida guys.
I have selected Oregon State on my little pick'em thing because of that. Because I don't know who's going to play for Florida. And their other backup quarterback. Well, we're not really going to talk about him because he's a scumbag. The Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl, 2:30 p.m. on ABC. I'll be watching this one. Fresno State and Washington State. Is Jake Hayner going to play? I don't know. Maybe.
I believe he is.
I don't know about Jalen Cropper if he'll play. Jordan Mims, I believe, is going to be at the NFLPA. No, sorry, the Shrine. He'll be at the Shrine. Cameron Ward, Washington State, has been okay. Dayon Henley, stud, going to be at the Senior Bowl. Derek Langford Jr., their Washington State corner, I like a lot. Anybody else in this one, Shane?
No, but I do think we're getting a pretty big contingent. Jake Hayner is playing and going on Jimmy Kimmel, because this is the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl, LA Bowl. So there you go. You get some publicity there.
Nino says Nico Remigio is a player to watch. Not bad. He's not bad. We don't discuss freshman running backs on this show. That's the Debbie Marketplace podcast you're thinking about.
Yeah, subscribe where you listen to your podcast.
The Lending Tree Bowl, 4:45 on ESPN. Shane, I will be at this bowl game.
Yeah,
covering
exciting.
it for Draft Countdown. Got the old credentials this week, and the printed off the parking pass there before we went on the air. So ready to go. Rice and Southern Miss. We are split on our opinions of Southern Miss wide receiver Jason Brownlee. Frank Gore Jr., just a tremendous all-around talent for Southern Miss. Rice has a couple of wide receivers here to watch. Bradley Rosner, seventh-year player. Luke McCaffrey, the transfer over from Nebraska, I think it is, where he was a quarterback, now a wide receiver. And don't sleep on Akina Enechukwu, the edge rusher for Rice. Not a bad player as well.
Yeah, I'm sensing a big Frank Gore Jr. game here for Southern Miss.
If he throws, catches, and runs for a touchdown pass in this game, it will not be the first time that's happened this season.
There you go.
He got my all-purpose vote, by the way, on my All-American.
Nice.
I did. I cast that vote. That normally goes to a kick returner, I guess, but I felt he more suited though. New Mexico Bowl, 6:30 p.m. on ABC. Shane, I'll be watching this one. We just talked about it with the time switch here. BYU and SMU. In this one, Jaron Hall, we talked about him earlier, the BYU quarterback. We love the linebackers for BYU. They've got a trio of those guys that can play. And Puka Nacua will be at the Senior Bowl. Don't know if he'll be at this game. SMU has been hammered by defections before this game. Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback, is not going to play. Rashee Rice, injured. Hopefully we'll get to see him at the Senior Bowl. Fingers crossed.
You will.
So we'll see what SMU brings in this game. Apparently, they've robbed Miami because they brought in like 3 transfers from Miami in the last couple of days. So,
yeah, I mean, it looks like BYU is going to be fairly full contingent, and I think that's exciting. Maybe this could be a big game for Tyler Batty, the edge rusher, who's going back to school as well. I think that might be good.
Penny Katoa go out strong game. Shane, for the brand.
I don't think he's playing. I don't think he's playing. I think I saw that he's hurt. I could be wrong. Yeah, he's rolled out for the bowl game. So you lost that one.
The brand has dealt another blow. The finale on Saturday night, Shane, you'll be watching the Frisco Bowl between Boise State and North Texas. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say there's not a draftable prospect on the North Texas roster, at least none of the 4 players we have on this list. Because despite you trying to tell me that this 11th year baseball
player declared for the draft, he declared Austin.
He's not any good. JL Skinner, whether he may or may not play in this game, he will play at the Senior Bowl. He's the top prospect in this game by far and away.
Yeah, I think Boise is going to have the talent advantage in this one, even if guys like Skinner don't play. So
Monday afternoon on ESPN, the Myrtle Beach Bowl on the teal field there at Coastal Carolina. Marshall and UConn, Shane. The running backs from Marshall, definitely the players to watch here. Not a whole lot from UConn.
No, though, you know what? They fought hard this season. But, yeah, it seems like Kalen LeBourne and Rasheen Ali, the running backs from Marshall, are going to play in the bowl game. So I think we could see them run wild in this one against a poor UConn rush defense. And, I want to say LeBourne is out of eligibility, and I imagine Ali will not declare. But, LeBourne could definitely make a team.
Tuesday afternoon on ESPN, I'll be watching the famous Idaho Potato Bowl between Eastern Michigan and San Jose State. There's actually a couple players to like in this game. For Eastern Michigan, their edge rusher, Jose Ramirez, very productive guy. Saidi Sal, the guard, Saidi So. Eastern Michigan he's a fun player to watch if you haven't caught him. I didn't see this comment right quick. Regards to Marshall, Stephen Gilmore. I'm a fan of his. I don't think he's going to get drafted, but I am a fan of him getting to a camp. I think he can be a strong nickel.
Going to the Hula Bowl.
One of the Hula Bowl. And he is the younger brother of Stephon Gilmore. So good genes. But yeah, San Jose State, I like Elijah Cooks, their wide receiver. And they have a couple of other the edge rushers, Fahoko and Cade Hall, solid players.
Yeah, Fajoko's going to an All-Star game, right?
I believe
think
so.
It might be a shrine at the end.
I think it is a shrine.
So, I mean, I think he.
I think Nehemiah Shelton is as well. Their corner. I think he's also at the shrine.
Yeah, so they probably will play in this game, and I think that's going to be a good evaluation because I think Fahoko has a lot of talent, but just it should get drafted.
That brings us to the Boca Raton Bowl that night, Shane. You'll be watching Liberty and Toledo. New coach at Liberty, Jamie Chadwell. Charlie Brewer, Baylor, former Baylor guy, Utah, 4 other places. Just think he's still their quarterback. Toledo, Daquan Finn, fun quarterback there for the Rockets. Don't know that he'll be in this draft class, though.
Yeah, I don't think Charlie Brewer's played too much this year. Caden Salter probably will play in this game. Maybe Jonathan Bennett, but
he wasn't any good anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. But Toledo, I mean, Dallas Gant, the Ohio State transfer.
Wrote about him last week, I believe, a couple weeks ago from the MAC title game.
Yeah, I mean, he's played well at linebacker. I think he's played well this year. I think Toledo's underperformed, so I actually think this might be a really good bowl game.
There you go. So that gets us through week 1 of the bowl game, Shane. So you ready to get back in it this weekend?
Yeah. I've missed it, so I'm ready.
All right. Let's get to some questions here. We had a couple of comments earlier here. Nino said Shane and Brian, the fire duo. I agree, Nino. That's a very, very
I agree with that fire duo.
Football Alliance here. Everyone talks shit about long snappers until they need one. Man, it's not wrong.
That's true.
Man is not wrong. Nino's asking, did Sampson declare? I'm not sure what Sampson he's talking about.
Samson Evans, the running back for Eastern Michigan. I don't think has declared, and I would guess not, but we'll see.
Okay. Do we have any questions in the Discord? I don't think we did. So our only question remaining here is from Twitter, and at Lord Lookin asks, if Ohio State linebacker Tommy Eichenberg were to declare, do you think he could be LB1 given the indifferent seasons for Trenton Simpson and Noah Sewell?
Look, I think Tommy Eichenberg's had a great year for Ohio State. I'm not sure he has the athletic profile to be linebacker 1 like Simpson and Sewell do. So even with down years, and you still have guys like Jack Campbell and Deion Henley who played really well. I think Eichenberg's a day 2 player, but I don't think he'll quite reach those heights if he declares for the draft. And I'm sure Ohio State wants him back. He was probably the best player all around on the defense consistently this year. So he's a name, if he does declare, he's a name to watch for that could rise 2nd, 3rd round.
There you go. So that's going to do it for the question. Shane, sad news this week out of Starkville. Mike Leach, the head coach for Mississippi State, former head coach at Texas Tech and Washington State, passed away after complications from I believe it was a massive heart attack. I believe it was the report that came out, and he did not recover. We could talk about his eccentricities all day, because those were just fun in general. But I think you may be hard pressed in the modern world of football in general, not just college, but high school and even now into the NFL, to find a coach that's had a bigger impact on the modern game than Mike Leach.
I mean, I think from an X's and O's perspective, he absolutely has. The passing game would not be what it is without Mike Leach. And then the coaching tree, guys that he coached as players, or guys that he coached under him, are head coaches in the NFL and college football. Like Mike Leach made a big impact in that way too. He was a teacher, he was a leader. And definitely some great draft prospects under him. Michael Crabtree always springs to mind first of his dominance. Had a long NFL career. People forget Wes Welker was coached by Mike Leach, right? Who didn't get the respect he deserved, and obviously we've seen Gardner Minshew make an impact there. So yeah, I love that he was so blunt. And if you've never heard the Oklahoma Texas story when he was the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, dropping a fake play sheet for Texas coaches to pick up that ended up getting Oklahoma up 3 scores early in the game, you got to check that out.
Yeah. And anybody who hasn't, I believe Bruce Feldman wrote the book. It's called Swing Your Sword. I'm sure you can find a copy of it on Amazon or go to your local library. That's what I did when I got the book and read it. And it was awesome to read about how he, he never played college football. He never, and dude had a law degree from Pepperdine, which is in Malibu for anybody who doesn't know that, and gave all that up to work for like $5,000 a year as a assistant coach at Iowa Wesleyan D3 school, and then joined up with Hal Mummy at Valdosta State, and they started their rise there. And then he gets to be the OC at Oklahoma, and that program takes off, and then he gets the head gig at Texas Tech, and then was unceremoniously let go there because Craig James is trash, and then moved on to Washington State, and left there to be at Mississippi State, where he is today. Mississippi State will play in the bowl game. They announced that yesterday. They said all the players wanted to play, and I believe the AD, I'm going to paraphrase here, but he basically said they play the game where there's a damn pirate ship in the stadium. We have to play.
That's good. That's good. And I love that they hired from within for the head coach as well.
Yeah. The interim coach was the defensive coordinator. I can't his name's I've seen it 10 times a day and forgot his name, but he was the interim coach, and then they just went ahead and just removed the interim tag and let him continue on. My guess would be that they'll tab one of his other branches off the tree there to come in as be the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Zach
Arnett.
Yes. And there may be one of those branches comes available here in about 6 weeks. Just saying. Just saying. I don't know how much long Cliff Kingsbury is going to be for the National Football League. But yes, I really hope that Mississippi State pays tribute to him. Wear some damn black helmets with some skull and crossbones on them or something during the game. I mean, I think that'd be pretty awesome if they did something like that. But yeah, Mike Leach, innovator, funny guy. One of one, as somebody put it, I think, earlier this week.
That's great.
So that's going to do it. The podcast tonight, Shane. I can't help but notice there's a championship belt over your right shoulder there, Shane.
Yes, I won one of the more prestigious college fantasy football leagues in the country, the Kings Classic. We drafted live at the Fantasy Football Expo run by John Laub, who's an excellent college football mind. But I won my first year in the league, and I took home the belt, so I get to keep this belt forever. Some nice photos floating around Twitter if you want to check them out. Or our Discord, I posted it.
Good stuff, Shane. That's pretty awesome.
I'll take it.
So that's going to do it for tonight. If you're new to the YouTube channel here, like our videos, hit the subscribe and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever we go live with these videos. If you listen to us on audio, be it podcast, Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, give us a nice 5-star review there. Share that out amongst your peeps. And follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft. Follow Shane on Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. Follow Draft Countdown on Twitter at Draft Countdown. Go to draftcountdown.com for all of your daily NFL draft needs. For Shane, Brian, good night, everybody.